Hi, I'm Adam Miller. I'm the president and host of Songtime Radio, and I'm joined today by a good friend of mine, Erik Eskelund, who is the pastor of Living Hope Family Church here in Hyannis. He's also been walking a long distance for the sake of a ministry in South Africa called Emoyeni, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that. So just to make sure that I said that correctly.
You got it. You absolutely got it. Emoyeni Ministries.
Emoyeni. So now we heard it in a South African accent, so you can put that and publish it and send it to the bank. So
that's right.
Erik, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and thank you for the sacrificing your body for the sake of this ministry.
Hey, listen, we're suffering for Jesus, right?
That's right.
Well, Adam, thank you for the opportunity for me to tell my story. I completed on Monday 52.35 miles from Provincetown to the Barnstable Superior Courthouse, and then drove down to the bridge, the Sagamore Bridge, and walked across an additional just over half a mile. It was 53 miles total, double marathon in a single day, and these feet are definitely telling me that they did that job, for sure.
We're going to find out a lot about your feet as well as about this ministry,
sure.
Because this is a great opportunity for people to get involved and to share, to support the work that's happening in South Africa. So why don't you get started by telling us a little bit about Emoyeni and what it does?
Sure thing. The Emoyeni Ministries is an opportunity that we seized probably 20 years ago to begin helping a community that was really badly impacted by the HIV/AIDS pandemic. Back in the late 1990s and the early 2000s, there were a lot of children that were kind of left in the aftermath of this pandemic, left as orphans or vulnerable. And our heart was to reach out and to try and do something about that. We knew that we were very limited in our resources, and it was just me and a couple of friends that I managed to rope into my crazy idea. And seems like there's a lot of that going around. But I grabbed them alongside, and we talked about it, we prayed about it, and we looked for an opportunity to maybe do something. And the idea that we originally had was to build a foster care village and bring in imported parents from different countries of the world to come and serve for 5 or 6 years at a time, taking care of kids. Well, that vision never materialized in quite that way, but over the last 20 years, we've been able to support local foster care environments in that village. There's about 10,000 people that live in that community, and in a community a little bit broader than that, maybe 250,000 indigenous people that live there with not a lot of infrastructure. And so we spent the last 20 years building homes, daycare centers, doing food and medical missions, and offering blankets in the wintertime. We've developed a pastoral training school. We actually built 3 daycare centers and a whole bunch of kitchens where we served kids that were going to school every day. They didn't get hot meals at home, so we gave them a hot meal once a day, 5 days a week, and we did that for a number of years. Each one of these missions, as I was telling you earlier, had a little bit of a shelf life. When it came to the point where they were kind of standing on their own, we handed them off to other ministries to take care of them. So we're no longer doing all of that stuff. But over the years, we've done that in segments. And I think the thing I'm probably most proud of is that we're still here 20 years later by God's grace. And I think I said in one of our videos, promotional videos, that we've by God's grace, over the last 20 years, we've been able to raise and distribute nearly $2 million out of my basement. And that's really amazing.
Yeah. Now, you talked about how this ministry has been working towards a lot of self-sufficiency, but, they got hit pretty hard by the pandemic and the coronavirus that actually impeded a lot of that self-sufficiency.
Well, part of our self-sustaining program is we actually purchased a farm that was an operating macadamia farm, a small orchard, and we developed the orchard over the years, and the goal is that eventually the orchard will produce enough to where the ministry will not be entirely reliant upon the donations of foreigners, and that they'll be able to continue on their own even if we are no longer here. The farm also generates income because we're able to take teams there, and every time we take a team, the team pays a certain amount of money to stay, and that, instead of putting them in a hotel somewhere, we get to keep that money that's used, and that generates income for the ministry as well. Well, during the COVID season, we haven't had any of our teams. Our summer teams, we usually have 3, 4, 5 different teams that come, and each one of those may raise $5,000 or $6,000 in addition. So you multiply that out, you've got $20,000 or $30,000 that didn't come in to the ministry over the season, and that's been really hard for us. So that's part of the reason why we did this crazy walk. We thought, well, maybe if we walk our feet off, somebody will pay attention and they can contribute. And thank God, there's been a wonderful outpouring, and hopefully with this video, maybe a little bit more.
You got pretty close to your target. So your target for this was $10,000.
That's right.
You got so close to it, but you need a little help to get the rest of the way.
We do. So I'm thinking we're probably closing in on about $7,000 right now. We still need another $3,000 to make our goal, but that was our dream goal. So it'd be wonderful if it could come.
So what is it that made you think that walking would be a good idea?
I have no idea. That was probably like the worst idea I ever had in my life. I was talking on the phone with Daryl, who's our national director in South Africa, and I said, Daryl, I've got this crazy idea. I think I'm going to do a fundraising walkathon. I'm going to walk from Provincetown all the way down across the Sagamore Bridge in 24 hours. That's an unlikely goal, and I think I could gain some attention and maybe raise some money. He said, if you're going to do that, I'm going to walk at the same time in Africa, the same distance. Let's do it together. Well, he's 10 years older than I am, and I've got a little gray hair in my beard already. So there was a bit ambitious for both of us anyway, but we decided we'd try this thing out. And I mentioned the idea to a few friends, and then next thing I knew, Emilio, my colleague here at the church, said, I want to be in on that. He's from South Africa as well. So Emilio grew up in one of the indigenous type of villages that we're helping. And now, years later, he's like, hey, man, I want to give back to that as well. So he and I decided we're going to walk the Provincetown thing. And that's where the idea came from. And then it morphed and grew to the point where I had to do the walk because everybody was expecting me. There's no backing out of it. When common sense began to get through, at that point, I was already in too deep.
Yeah. For any of our listeners who don't know how long that is, how many miles is that in that short period of time?
Okay, so we started out at midnight at Herring Cove Beach in Provincetown, and 53 miles later, it was 8:30 p.m., okay? So I walked for 20 and a half hours. And we stopped in a couple places only long enough to dress my wounds, because I think we had blisters after mile 15, and so then it just got worse all the way. So the entire thing from beginning to end is just a little over 68 miles. It's probably close to 70, depends on. We would have found out when we'd actually tracked it, but I think Mark and I figured out the mileage was just a little over 68 miles.
Yeah, and you were already getting blisters 15 miles in.
At 15.
And then you just pressed through it all.
Endurance and a little bit of stupidity.
A little bit. Well, it's a combination of the two that has moved a lot of people into some amazingly great things. And this is certainly a great venture worth acknowledging, but also to see all the people and the love and the support that came in as a result of this. You must be feeling incredibly fulfilled that God has done some great things.
I am
through the sacrifice.
There was one moment where we arrived in Harwich, and all of a sudden a whole bunch of people showed up, and I didn't know that they were going to be there. I knew there were a few people tracking us, and they were going to try and find us. All of a sudden there was a whole crowd of people there, and my wife arrived with lemon sorbet from 4 C's ice cream, and it was like, here's a spoon, you've earned this, eat it. And then all of a sudden there's all these people, and most of them stayed and walked with me from that point on. I mean, Mark's kids were there walking. They raised money for this thing. All of a sudden I realized, hey, I'm not doing this on my own. That is an amazing feeling. Something that started off as an idea in my head somehow became an idea in somebody else's heart, and they said, I want to be a part of that. I can't tell you that there's any greater feeling in the world than that. It's like passing on a torch to another generation. And when the kids, when my son and a bunch of others actually took the backpacks and they said, we're finishing this race, and I was in bed sleeping at 1:30, but I heard the hooting and hollering when everybody got home, something in my heart was like, I don't have to finish this thing. I can't finish it. It's too big for me. But I can start something, and somebody else can believe in it, and they can carry it to the end. And so, I mean, the whole spiritual meaning behind this for me, Emoyeni is a much bigger project than I could ever dream of accomplishing. We just started it, but maybe if God is in it, somebody else will take over from us and carry it on and finish what we started and carry it on to even further things. Talking about it couldn't have ended better. I love that you say that. When I was at the courthouse and I had to stop because my feet could not carry me where my heart wanted to go, I actually wanted to burst out crying in front of everybody, and I controlled it because here's this tough guy who's just walked 53 miles. I am absolutely not going to cry in front of everybody. But my voice faltered when I said, guys, this is it. I can't go any further, and I felt like I was letting everybody down, letting the team down. The kids who'd walked alongside me now for the last 5 or 6 miles who were like, we'll go to the bridge with you, and I couldn't go with them. And these little guys, I'm Mark's kids who were so excited about this thing, and I felt like just I've let the whole side down. But when those guys picked up the backpack and the rest of the team said, oh no, and they kind of cheered me coming in and then cheered the other guys going out, I realized I didn't let anybody down by not finishing. I'm part of a thing bigger than me. And I carried it as far as I could go, and that's all that was required of me. And I got to tell you, I think I've learned something in this experience that is going to shape the way I do ministry, not just in Emoyeni, but even with the church. Yeah. Because I've long been a self-sufficient guy who built everything and wanted to, build it and finish it and be able to say, look what I did. God's visions are bigger than us, and if they're not, it might not be God's vision.
But this is really great. It's cool to see what you've been able to do, and I know that you still got some bandages on your feet.
I took them off, and I've got all kinds of weird stuff on there right now, and blisters everywhere.
If people really want to get behind what you're doing right now, they want to help you get past that $10,000 mark. Really, that's a small mark for the amount of money that you've lost in the ministry already for this year. If they want to get behind you, what can they do?
Well, the best thing to do right now is actually to donate right through our Facebook page, because Facebook is not withholding any fees.
Wow.
It's 100% of what you give is going straight to the charity of your choice. So if you choose our charity, Friends of Emoyeni Children's Village Incorporated is the name of the ministry on Facebook. That's the American public charity. It's a 501c3, and people can, if they're on this side of the world, they can give to that. The best way to do is just make a donation right through Facebook. But you can also send a check to our office. There's also no fees involved there. A little bit more because you got to put a stamp on it. But we love receiving checks, and you can make it out to Emoyeni USA. That's Emoyeni USA, and mail it to Box 299 West Hyannisport, Massachusetts 02672.
Well, thanks again. It was a privilege. To find out more information, all the links will be attached, I'm sure, and you'll be able to follow those. But help us get the word out. You can like and share. It's one other way that you can help support the work overseas. So, Erik, again, thank you for doing this work and making awareness of ministry that is dear to your heart and hopefully dear to new hearts as well.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you.